Yo, what's up? Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Huddle Chat Sports Show, otherwise known as THC Sports. I'm your host, Dallas Clark, aka Indo is my Nindo. Now make sure you follow me on social media at Indo is my Nindo. That's your Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all of that. Now, if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to always hit that like button if you like the content. And make sure you hit that subscription button, hit that notifications bell, stay notified, stay in the know on when these episodes are coming out. Because if you don't know at this point, I'm bringing you consistency. We're getting episodes weekly, and we may even bump it up to twice weekly because it has been being received so well. And I cannot thank y'all enough for the support and for the love that I've received up to this point and through this point. Now, of course, if you are new to the channel and you don't know about THC Sports, this is a cannabis-powered yet sports-driven talk show. Around here, we do focus on the sports. Cannabis will be infused throughout the talk show because it's hard to deny that cannabis is becoming a part of sports as we know it. You're seeing athletes present and past talk about and vouch for how marijuana and cannabis itself has helped them throughout their career, whether it be through medication, whether it be through stress relief, relaxation, off-season, pre-game, you name it. Cannabis has been a part of sports for a long time. And it's hard to deny that it's going to be a part of sports as we know it coming up in the future and right now during the present. And of course, around here, we do like to typically follow and plow new ground. We like to attack those teams, storylines, players that just don't get as much attention in the national headlines as they should. When you're watching your Monday through Friday First Take, Undisputed, Get Up, those same Monday through Friday talk shows that just seem to typically talk about those same teams over and over and over and over and over again. And if you're anything like me and you're tired of hearing of those same stories and those same players and those same teams constantly, and you have to scour the depths of YouTube for any information regarding your team, then you found a home here at the Huddle Chat Sports Show. But like I said, this is a cannabis-powered stream talk show, so we are going to be lighting it up throughout the whole time. And if you don't consume, that's perfectly okay. But out here in Colorado where I live, I'm a medical marijuana patient. I work in the cannabis industry. So if I'm not working with marijuana or researching marijuana or growing marijuana or selling marijuana, I'm consuming marijuana. Marijuana is a part of my life. Hence the name Indo is my Nindo. Weed is my ninja way. So before we can get started in today's episode, let's get sparked up on the flower today. And we got to kick it to Eric for the intro. Go ahead, get him started, Eric. Let's get gassed up.
Like as soon as you click on the video, it's and then marijuana title cards with smoke coming up. It's like
I may be covered in cat hair, but I still smell good. Baby, let me know, how do I look in my do-rag? Don't lie to me, let me rock you all night long. I'm trying to impress you, girl.
And you're getting high in the middle of the afternoon off some weed.
Now, of course, just yesterday, the biggest thing that just happened in this world of sports is the NFL trade deadline just closed 4 p.m. yesterday. Now, the biggest storyline is that there is really no storylines to talk about the NFL trade deadline. I wake up the next morning and I hear a lot of people discussing who the biggest losers are of the NFL trade deadline. And everybody seems to be pointing at Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. Same way they were pointing at them during the NFL draft. It seems as if people are of course, saying that Aaron Rodgers needs to add weapons because Aaron Rodgers is not getting any younger. He's 37 years of age. It seems like he may be able to play well into his 40s on the Tom Brady spectrum. He's kept his body healthy. He's thankfully been able to avoid any crazy serious injuries besides the broken collarbone. So he's kind of built to last. He's like a little Duracell Energizer bunny. But you've got Davante Adams on the team, arguably the best wide receiver in the league today. At least one of the best, one of the top 3 wide receivers in the league today. But who do you got behind Davante Adams? You got Adam Lazard is the next man up in the wide receiver core, and he's been out for the last 4 weeks. On the offensive side, in the backfield, you got Aaron Jones. He's been hurt, struggling with injury, saying that he's able to come back, and it's just up to the Green Bay Packers medical staff on when he can play. Jamal Williams has been hurt. A.J. Dillon has been hurt. So they have been suffering through injury in their running back backfield, as well as their backups to Davante Adams. But even then, Adam Lazard is really nothing to hold your breath at. He's not that spectacular of a wide receiver. So what are we going to do about getting Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers some more weapons? I understand, and it's easy to say that the Green Bay Packers are the biggest losers of the NFL trade deadline. But the fact of the matter is the Green Bay Packers right now are sitting at 5-1, 5-2. They're sitting pretty. They're at the top of their division in a weaker division. They've got a fairly nice schedule coming up. Their offense, they've got Aaron Rodgers, and no matter what you have, Aaron Rodgers gives you a chance. Look at the tight ends, look at the wide receivers he's been working with throughout his whole career. Yes, he's had Randall Cobbs and Jordy Nelsons and Devontae Adams, but also let's look at what his wide receivers have done, not with Aaron Rodgers. So were his wide receivers that good, or were they just playing with Aaron Rodgers? That's up for an argument for another day. But the fact of the matter is that there's a bigger team, another team that's way bigger losers than the Green Bay Packers, and I feel like it's kind of surprising that nobody really sees this. The Houston Texans are absolutely 100% the biggest losers of the NFL trade deadline. The fact that they did not make a move, whether it be releasing players, whether it be acquiring players, is the biggest loss of this year's NFL trade deadline. I mean, let's just look at the cold facts. Look at the future. Coming up this season alone, they've already lost their GM and head coach. So right now you're going into an offseason, no GM, no head coach. Looking at the bottom of your division, where you got Tennessee and Indianapolis just at the top, running through teams. So you're definitely on the outside looking in from the playoff perspective. You're already a losing team. You don't have a head coach or a GM. You've got a quarterback in Deshaun Watson who can be elite, who you do believe in. And you're wasting the best times, the best years of his career by not doing anything around him. Coming into the season, as a matter of fact, you take away his biggest weapon, arguably the other biggest wide receiver in the league that's not named Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins. They let him go to the Arizona Cardinals, and we see what he's doing and the impact he's making for Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. And not only did they lose DeAndre Hopkins, they for some reason acquired David Johnson, a below average, a running back that's not performing at the level that was expected of him after the one good year, after a broken wrist. He just hasn't had the spark behind him. And not only that, he is a hella expensive contract. So they take on that contract that the Arizona Cardinals were seriously trying to give to anybody because that was eating up a big chunk of their salary cap. And they take a below average running back to put behind David Johnson and replace with one of the best wide receivers in the league. So that's just already going into the season. Like I said, you've already lost your head coach and your GM. You're sitting in the bottom 7 worst teams in the NFL as far as salary cap going into the next year. You don't have a first or second round pick to speak of at the current moment due to the Laramie Tunsil trade. So you can either do one of two things, which is A, sell Will Fuller or even J.J. Watt to teams that are buying and get rid of those big contracts. Get rid of Merciless. Get rid of David Johnson. Get rid of one of the 5 wide receivers that you have. Will Fuller, Randall Cobb, Brandon Cooks, Kenny Stills, any one of those wide receivers whose contract is expiring in the next couple of years, who's eating up that big chunk of money, you can sell them, get some more draft picks, get some more salary capital, and make yourself a more appetizing choice in free agency for not only players, but new head coaches and new GMs to come to your team. So the fact that you stand pat and don't sell any of those players, as well as not acquiring any new weapons to put behind Deshaun Watson, and you just look at your team and say, hey, we're going to sit at 1-6. You deserve to be 1-6 or even worse. And you already have Deshaun Watson, so maybe you added a great pick in the 3rd round of next year's draft. But the fact of the matter is the Houston Texans really needed to add some salary capital, some draft capital, something to build on. Because right now, this is not a team built for success in any way, shape, or form. So the Houston Texans, by damn sure, are 100% the biggest losers of the NFL trade deadline. And I don't understand. I can see why you would say it's the Green Bay Packers, but I don't understand why more people aren't saying and seeing that the Houston Texans should have done more. Now, while we're on the topic of the AFC South, of course, like I've mentioned before, I'm an Indianapolis Colts fan. And I want to tell you why, as an Indianapolis Colts fan, I'm anxious for November. I'm not nervous. I'm not excited. Of course, I'm excited. Football's alive. Football's still going. Thank God, knock on wood. Corona hasn't stopped us yet. However, The Colts are sitting right now at 5-2 with the second best defense in the league, arguably the best defense in the league, but second best statistically at this current moment. Phillip Rivers has thankfully played a lot better over the last 2 games than he did in the first couple, and I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable with Phillip Rivers. Maybe he's just gotten more comfortable in the system. We've got a really surprising running game. I mean, what happened last week with Jonathan Taylor, Nyheim Hines, and Jordan Wilkins was just an anomaly, but it seems like no matter which one we put back there, they're going to see success, and we're going to maybe just go with the hot hand approach. But we've got a great running game. Still one of the best offensive lines in the league. Our wide receivers, man, I really would like to know what the fuck is going on with T.Y. Hilton. Maybe somebody like Zach Pascal can step up. But our tight end room has been going crazy between Jack Doyle, Trey Burton, and Mo Alley Cox. So the Colts seem to be firing on virtually all cylinders at the current moment. Like I said, we're sitting at 5-2. We were also sitting at 5-2 last season at this same moment. But this month of November is going to be a lot for the Indianapolis Colts. And it's going to prove a lot about the Indianapolis Colts. Whether certain people are right, whether certain people are wrong. Over the next 4 games, the Indianapolis Colts have the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson coming. Then they play the Tennessee Titans on Thursday Night Football. Then the week of Thanksgiving, we get the Green Bay Packers. And that's a game I personally cannot wait for. And then after that, we got the Tennessee Titans again. So over the next 4 games, we have, honestly, 4 of the toughest opponents that we have in our entire schedule. So it's really going to prove a lot about the Indianapolis Colts here coming up. Whether our defense is good enough to stop Lamar Jackson. Whether our offense is good enough to keep up with Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. Whether we've got the firepower to sustain the Tennessee Titans as well as outshoot them. If we can stop Derrick Henry the monster from eating us up all day, as well as get the numbers that we need to come out victorious in that game. So over the next 4 games, of course, as an Indianapolis Colts fan, you'd like to see them win all 4. But you would like to at least see, at minimum, 7-4 coming out of these next 4 games. You'd like to see us at least win 2 of these next 4 games. Of course, you want to see us win them all. But I'm very anxious as an Indianapolis Colts fan coming up here because this month of November is really going to prove whether the Indianapolis Colts are real, whether we're pretenders, or whether we're contenders. Of course, as an Indianapolis Colts fan, I'm going to tell you with confidence, I believe in this team, and we are going to be contenders. But only time will tell. Any given Sunday, anything can happen. We did already lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is one I still just can't get over. We did, unfortunately, slip that game to the Cleveland Browns, which we could have won. Those were 2 games that we should have won, and we could be sitting with the Pittsburgh Steelers at 7-0. But that's in the mind of an Indianapolis Colts fan. We're realistic around here. That one took a lot to come out. Maybe I need to hit the blunt again. But we're realistic around here at the Huddle Chat Sports Show. Like I said, all it is, all we're doing right now is just waiting to see what the Indianapolis Colts do. And I cannot wait to see our 1 national TV game this next week against the Tennessee Titans. It's a damn slap in the face to the Indianapolis Colts that this is the only national TV game that we get. And it's Thursday Night Football, which is NFL Network, which isn't even a typical cable network. So it's not even technically a national TV game. But hey, beggars can't be choosers at this point. I'm just glad to see the Indianapolis Colts on TV for once. But we got a big November coming up. You heard me mention the Pittsburgh Steelers a couple minutes ago, and I can't not talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers any longer. I've been avoiding talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're one of the only undefeated teams in the NFL. Actually, as a matter of fact, they are the only undefeated team in the NFL anymore at this point. But I can't avoid talking about them anymore. People aren't talking about them as they should. They aren't giving certain people the credit that they need to. Because when you think of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who do you think of? Who is the superstar of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Big Ben Roethlisberger. Big Ben Roethlisberger has been playing to my expectations this year. If you look back on my love and hate list from fantasy football, I had Ben Roethlisberger all over the hate list. I didn't really believe in him to put up the numbers. Outside of James Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster, who are you expecting out going into the season? Who were you looking at on the Pittsburgh Steelers team and saying, man, watch out for this guy? Maybe Devin Bush, their linebacker, who has been injured this whole season, and their defense hasn't missed a beat. When you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers' success, you have to look at it and say, who is responsible for the success of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Who is keeping this engine running like it should? Because the Pittsburgh Steelers that I remember, they've been dealing with holdouts and walkouts, and the locker room is lost. That's the Pittsburgh Steelers that I've been hearing about on the media. When you look at that Pittsburgh Steelers team, they just, of course, won this last game against the Baltimore Ravens, and everybody had been saying if they beat Tennessee, we'll believe that they're a real team. If they beat Baltimore, we'll believe they're a real team. Well, they've done both. Now they're sitting pretty as the only team undefeated in the NFL. But not only did they just hit that only undefeated team mark in the NFL with their last win, another milestone was hit with their last victory. Their head coach, Mike Tomlin, just became the winningest black coach in NFL history. He surpassed his mentor, one of the greatest football coaches to ever do it, Tony Dungy. He surpassed Tony Dungy and hit his 140th win to become the winningest black coach in NFL history. And congratulations, Mike Tomlin. Shouts out to that brother. That's a cold brother right there. And you're starting to get to the point where you're saying, is Mike Tomlin one of the greatest coaches of this era? Of course, you have to look at Bill Belichick and say, 6 Super Bowl rings is hard to deny. But who do you put behind Bill Belichick? Who's the closest one up to him? And you have to see Mike Tomlin in his 14-year tenure has never had a losing season. He's one win away from never having a losing season so far in his career. Even last season, coming fresh off the El Bapo Antonio Brown walkout and the Le'Veon Bell holdout and eventual walkout, they lost 2 of the biggest players in football at the time, the best running back in the league at the time, one of the best wide receivers in the league at the time. Those 2 players walked out of that team, and that team barely skipped a beat with their quarterback also having a major elbow injury that caused him to have the Tommy John surgery. So they missed their quarterback, and they have a man named Duck leading a team that just lost 2 of the greatest players in football at that time, and they still don't have a losing season. They still somehow managed to squeeze out 8 games and even be in playoff conversations at a certain point in that league. Of course, at the end, 8-8 wasn't enough to get in on the AFC side. But Mike Tomlin has been great. His greatness can no longer be ignored. Mike Tomlin is one of the greatest coaches of this era, and it's time to start comparing him to those quarterbacks. Those coaches. Even when you compare him to just the previous Pittsburgh Steelers coaches, because the Steelers have only had 3 head coaches over the last 70-some years. So Mike Tomlin is even comparable to those 2 previous coaches. The same way that people argue that Russell Wilson has never received an MVP vote and never won the MVP award, Mike Tomlin has never been awarded head coach of the year with 14 non-losing seasons under his belt. It's time to start looking at Mike Tomlin and giving him the respect he deserves. Yes, the Pittsburgh Steelers have been great this season, but their head coach has led them to being great. Their head coach has led them to saying, even when the NFL stripped them of their bye week and essentially said, you no longer get a bye week, this week's game is canceled, now start preparing for next week. Even when they got screwed over out of their bye week, they didn't miss a step. The Pittsburgh Steelers are here, and now people are starting to ask, are they comparable to the Kansas City Chiefs? Can they top Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs? And only time will tell. And when we approach that point, we will be talking about it, of course. But I want you to pay attention to how massively Mike Tomlin outcoaches the rest of the schedule. Of course, they've got the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football, and boy, what a terrible game to watch. The worst team in the league getting beat down by the best team in the league. It just sounds so exciting to see to me, and I cannot wait to tune into my TV on ESPN on Monday night to see that game. But I want you to see how Mike Tomlin, just how massively he outcoaches the rest of his schedule and how he approaches those playoffs and how he coaches with those coaches. Mike Tomlin is great, and it's time to stop ignoring the man's greatness. Now, don't forget this week coming up, of course, I've talked about it. We got that Indianapolis Colts game coming up against the Baltimore Ravens. And, of course, in my eyes, I believe that is America's game of the week. We're going to see if the Baltimore Ravens are real, and we're going to see if the Indianapolis Colts are real. It's one of the biggest matchups, and that's 2 of the hottest teams clashing against each other. But another one of the biggest things I'm most excited about this weekend, of course, is that return of Antonio Brown. Is he going to make an impact, or is he going to be useless at this point in his career? At this point, Tom Brady has proved to us that he can virtually bring an old man out of retirement and have him be a relevant player. I'm talking about Rob Gronkowski. So I'm excited to see what Antonio's got to bring this weekend. And honestly, I'm just excited to straight up see any of the football games this weekend. With all the COVID implications coming out, we're just lucky at this point to be getting any football. So, I mean, count your blessings while we have it. And every day, wake up and thank the football gods that we still have a season going on. Hopefully we get to finish it. I'd like to see it concluded. Of course, I'd like to see with the Indianapolis Colts on top. But again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today's episode of THC Sports. Don't forget, episodes are coming out weekly at this point, so be looking for every episode of the Huddle Chat Sports coming on around Thursday morning. Again, I'm your host, Dallas Clark, a.k.a. Indo is my Nindo. Don't forget to smash that like button. And thank you so much again for tuning in today. I'm out of here, y'all. Peace out.
Do you like my do?